On July 1st, Russians will head to the polls to vote on the proposed constitutional changes, which are aimed at strengthening the country's sovereignty and traditions while creating the conditions for steady, positive, evolutionary development of Russia in the long-term historical perspective. Russian parliament is legally capable of changing the constitution, but Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted that national vote is necessary to make the amendments legitimate. Amendments to the country's principal law include: shift some presidential power to Duma Russian government, restricting the president's time in office to 2 terms overall, excluding words "in a row", civil servants being prohibited from holding foreign bank accounts and citizenships, a ban on giving away any Russian territory, the need to mention God in the document, the restriction of marriage to the union of a man and a woman. The Russian people will be recognized as the founders of the state, which implies that Russian is a national language. A guarantee that the minimum wage and pensions will be adjusted for inflation and cost of living. Provisions to recognize the modern Russian Federation as the successor of the Soviet Union. A mention of historical truths to protect the great achievements of Russians in their defense of the motherland. The center of the state's concern should be a person, an individual. Amendments to the Constitution of the Social Security are the most debated and demanded among Russians. Social Security amendment is proposed to the authority of the government of the Russian Federation. You can measure the humanity of any society by the attitude of this society towards children and the elderly. If to talk about children, Russia has a program called Mother's Capital, according to which the state gives families money for the birth of the first, second, and third child. The amount of money for the third child is more than twice larger than for the first one. The money given should be spent for the needs of the children and the family, for instance, to buy an apartment, education, etc. Speaking of elderly, adults in Russia remember the insignificant pensions paid in the 90s with a delay of many months. Sometimes they didn't even pay the pensions. The state couldn't guarantee social security because the economy was in such a poor situation that no laws were backed by finances. Speaking of indexation of pensions and minimum wage for inflation and cost of living, now there is such opportunity, said Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. He continues, now the economy is in different shape, now we can guarantee, and if we can, then we must do it. For that, it should be written then in the basic law constitution. And it will mean that whatever the external economic situation, the level of social guarantees will not change, and at least once a year the indexation of pensions and minimum wage will take place. The state will stand in defense of the interest of the elderly and children. And the return to the cynical practice of the 90s will be impossible. All kinds of underpayments and non-payments of pensions and social benefits will become an unconstitutional crime.